Hey guys, it's Zaid here from Thenics, and I just want to welcome you to the training video. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain to you and show you everything you need to know to get started with calisthenics. In fact, I would say that this information that I'm about to give you is some of the most valuable information out there, certainly some of the most valuable information I could give anyone. Now, I'm not one for lengthy introductions, so let's just dive right into what I have to share with you. So I thought I'd kick things off with this quote. Socrates said that no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. And I'm going to show you exactly how to achieve that beauty and strength in this training video. But before we get started, I need to make something perfectly clear. Anybody, which means you, can wake up every day and see a body that they are proud of staring back at them. I don't care who you are, it is possible to get the physique of your dreams. That is not some lie I'm telling you, that is the truth. Anybody can perform feats of strength and endurance that they never thought were even possible. And we're talking the kind of stuff that you see in movies or that will blow the socks off most people you meet. All that stuff is possible. And let me clarify, when I say it's possible, I mean it is possible without spending crazy amounts of time in the gym. I'm about to show you the exact knowledge base you will use to get the most results in the least amount of time. That is my promise to you. But I need to ask you a question first. Are you afraid to make changes? Because I'm sorry to break it to you, but to change your life and get something that you've never had before, you are going to have to change things. Now, I'm about to show you methods and techniques of training that won't require you to do crazy things to get amazing results, but they still will require work and effort, and they will most of all require change. To change your body, you've got to change your behaviors. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, 90% of people aren't willing to make easy changes, which is why most of you who watch this video will probably never get anything from it. But for the 10% of you that take action, that use the information I'm about to give you to change your life, you are in for one hell of a ride. You are the ones that are going to succeed in getting the physique that you've always wanted. Because if you're an action taker and you use the system I'm about to give you, you are going to virtually guaranteed turn your body into a thing of beautiful raw power. We're talking a highly versatile body that is injury proof and far more attractive than the typical bodybuilder style physique. Now, the best parts are that you won't have to spend any crazy hours in the gym. You'll get results in under a year, and some of you might even see results in weeks. And you'll not only look amazing, you'll feel and move better than 99% of other people. You'll have real, usable strength that will serve you in your everyday life and in the gym. Now, if you're still not sure if you think it's worth it to take a little bit of time and devote it to your fitness, let me give you something to consider. The average American spends 4 hours a day watching TV. Now, that's 28 hours a week. If you take just a fraction of that time, you can build an incredible physique. Now, that means that while the average American will be spending 4 hours a day watching TV, if you follow what I'm about to give you, you'll be building a badass body for a fraction of that time. To me, that sounds like a no-brainer. And for those of you who still think it's impossible to have the body you've always wanted, all I can say is that thousands of other people have done it before, and it is possible. In fact, it's even probable if you follow the right training system, which, lucky for you, I'm about to give you in just a few moments. If you stick with it and put in small amounts of consistent effort every single week, I guarantee you, I absolutely 100% reassure you that you will see results, no matter what. It is guaranteed. So here's my promise. If you listen to this training video, give me your full attention and take notes. That's right, you need to take notes. That is critical. Then you'll know exactly what you need to know to achieve the body you've always dreamed of having with calisthenics. But you have to give me your full attention for just 1 hour. Okay? 1 hour is a small time investment to make, considering the incredible physique you will build using what I'm about to show you in this training. If we're cool on that, sweet. All right, so let me explain what you're getting into. What I'm about to show you is powerful stuff. This is information that is not commonly preached in the fitness industry, and I think you'll be hard-pressed to find some of the information I give to you here anywhere else. It is out there, you can find it, but it's uncommon and difficult to track down. What you are going to be doing is using a set of science-backed training principles to develop workouts that you can use for months and years to come. And I need to say it again. This is not magic, and it is going to take work. So if you're looking for some kind of magic pill that will get you fit without you putting in any work, then keep looking because it doesn't exist. There's no way around putting in the work, period. Now, if what you are looking for is the smart way to get fit, then this training is ideal for you. You see, the problem with the fitness industry is that very few people are working out smart. By that I mean, people keep doing things the hard way because they believe that getting a rock solid body needs to be incredibly difficult. Now, what happens is people listen to the advice they hear online, they try it, and they end up failing because it makes things so damn hard. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. A lot of the information out there is very solid stuff. But unfortunately, it's usually drowned out by the no pain, no gain mentality that has infected the fitness industry. And that's why really fit people are so rare, because so much of the online advice is just unsustainable and won't work long term. The majority of people work out hard for months and they grind every day, they count their calories, they put everything they've got into their workouts, and they never see the results they should be getting. Just walk into any gym, you'll find that only a few people are actually fit and the rest of them are just a bunch of poor wannabes. Now, I want you to imagine how painful that is. You pour yourself into something, which is working out in this case, and you never have anything to show for it. I'm willing to bet that actually a lot of you watching have probably already gone through that. You've gone through grueling workouts, you've eaten the smallest, tasteless meals imaginable, you followed everything you think is right to a T, and you only get, at best, mediocre results for incredible effort. Most people, understandably, get burnt out and give up, and they end up fat, unattractive, and unmotivated. A select few people actually succeed and figure this fitness thing out. So they get to look, feel, and perform 10 times better than everyone else with their perfectly toned bodies and superior health. You feel like shit, while the lucky few get to be the shit. This isn't fair, and it doesn't have to be this way. I don't want you, or anyone else for that matter, to feel like shit anymore. Trust me when I say that I want you to be successful with fitness. So let's take a look at what life could look like if you manage to get in shape using what I'm about to show you. In fact, let's do a little visualization exercise to give you an idea of what life could be like just a year from now. So I want you to imagine yourself standing in front of the mirror. You look good. In fact, you look amazing. You have a six pack. People have been noticing how incredible your body has begun to look, and members of the opposite sex are suddenly giving you more attention. Everybody treats you with more respect, and people want to know how you've changed your body so quickly. You feel better than you've ever felt in your life, and even though you know you have to keep training to maintain the body you've got, it doesn't matter because working out has become a way of life for you. You'd never even think of going back. So that future that I just described for you there, that is what I want for you. And I guarantee you that it can become a reality in 1 year or less. You just have to put in the work, enjoy the process, and stay focused on your goal. So, if you're ready to learn how to get the body of your dreams, and I'm sure you are, then let's dive in. So, what I want to introduce to you is a type of training called calisthenics. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know what calisthenics is. But for those of you who don't, calisthenics is the art of using your own body weight to build incredible strength, mobility, and muscle mass that will allow you to look and feel amazing. So if you've ever done a push-up, pull-up, or squat before, then you've done calisthenics before. In fact, these are foundational, basic exercises that everything you do in calisthenics will be built off of. But I don't want you to think that calisthenics is just another way of saying home workout. In fact, calisthenics is much more than just simple push-ups, pull-ups, and squats. Because the truth is that one-arm push-ups, handstands, muscle-ups, one-arm pull-ups, single-leg squats, and even more are all calisthenics movements. But those aren't even the coolest parts of calisthenics. So once you get more advanced and you've been training for roughly 2 years, the bread and butter of calisthenics will, no joke, become things like back levers, planches, front levers, human flags, and even iron crosses. And if you think that these movements are too hard for you to ever be able to do, I want you to just wait and see. You will surprise yourself by what your body is capable of. In fact, I firmly believe that anyone can achieve at least these three movements right here. And that's without being a top athlete or a fitness nut. Now, what you actually achieve in calisthenics is up to your goals. You can use it to build incredible muscle. You can use it to get insanely strong, learn cool tricks, do crazy feats of strength. You can do all of these things, or you can do just one of them, depending on how much effort you're willing to put in and how much time you're willing to invest. Perfect examples of people who chase every single possible goal in calisthenics are pro gymnasts. These guys have natural looking, shredded bodies. They are super flexible, they're pound for pound some of the strongest athletes in the world, and they can do all kinds of flips and tricks on pull up bars and gymnastics rings. Their bodies are strong and supple, and they're like a mix between steel and rubber. Now, I know most of you realize that these guys have been training for decades, but it does not take decades to build an incredibly strong body. And if you think that you can't achieve incredible things in a short amount of time with calisthenics, then you're wrong. In fact, just Google 1 year calisthenics transformation and you'll see people who have gone from zero to hero in record time. Just take a look. I found these images straight from Google. All of these people transformed their body in just 1 year. And I'm not joking when I say that these transformations are not the exception. They're actually common for people who stay consistent and follow a proper plan. And if you decide to stick with calisthenics for a longer time period, say 5 years or so, you'll end up looking a little bit like these guys. These guys are what you consider calisthenics celebrities. But I want you to take a look at Austin Dunham on the right here. He's only been training for roughly 5 years. And as you can see, he's got an incredible physique. And if you look at his videos, he can do some pretty cool stuff. However, he did not get to this point because he's special. He got to the point he's at because he put in consistent work and did things the smart way. If you do the same, don't be surprised when someday in the future you look in the mirror and see someone like one of these guys staring back at you. Trust me, it can and will happen. You've just got to take it one step at a time. All right, so now you have an idea of what you can achieve with calisthenics. And as you can see, the results are pretty spectacular. Now, with all that out of the way, I'm almost ready to teach you the science-backed knowledge base that you'll use to start calisthenics. And remember, this is a system that you can use to start your fitness journey today and get the same kind of shredded, badass body as the people we just looked at, all in record time. But first, let me quickly introduce myself so that you know who I am and why you can listen to me. So I'm Zaid, and I have a passion for calisthenics and teaching people how to start calisthenics and use it to get an incredible physique. Something about watching people take control of their body and make changes in their lives that will create a lasting impact to them just gets me fired up. And I truly believe that mastering your fitness is an enormous part of becoming the person you were always meant to be. But I haven't always been the fit or athletic type myself. In fact, not too long ago, I was scrawny and weak. And I wasn't just physically lazy either. I was lazy all around. Now, I felt like I was going nowhere in life, but I never did anything to change that. But I got lucky because several years ago, and I'm actually not sure how, I don't remember how, I got roped into doing a triathlon where you swim, bike, and run all in the same race. In the beginning of the training, I really did struggle. It was a difficult process for me. But after I did that race, I was absolutely hooked. I finally felt like I was taking control of a part of my life that I had never been able to before. And it wasn't long before I ended up running a marathon. Keep in mind, I'd always told myself stuff like fitness isn't my thing or that I would never run a marathon. I even said that I could be fit if I wanted to, but I just have no interest in being fit. Now, it's clear to me now that these were just lies I told myself to make myself feel better about being an underachiever when it came to fitness. But I used hard work and dedication to destroy the lies I had come up with in my mind, and I ended up completing that 26.2-mile marathon. And, I wish I had pictures of all this because you should have seen the look on my face when I completed that race. It was a feeling unlike anything I'd ever felt before. Now, it wasn't long after the marathon that I discovered calisthenics. The idea that I could use my own body weight to do incredible things with my fitness just was mind blowing to me. So I looked online for workouts and I started training pretty much immediately. Now, I wish I had done my homework because I probably wasted the first 6 to 12 months of my training because I didn't follow any scientific training principles back then. It didn't help that I had a hard time putting on muscle in the first place either. But I learned from my mistakes and I eventually realized just how little I knew about fitness. So with that, I began to start researching training principles and that opened up a whole new world for me. It really did become a passion of mine and I started consuming massive, I mean massive amounts of information. I read a lot of books on this topic and here's just a few of them. I'm not even going to mention the dozens of articles and hundreds of YouTube videos that I watched in the process. And I even read a big chunk, about 600 to 700 pages, of a full-on college-level textbook, which gave me a better understanding of how our bodies work on the micro level. Now, I was definitely hungry for knowledge, as you can tell, and I still am for that matter. I studied like crazy, and I learned from gymnasts, powerlifters, bodybuilders, and even triathlon runners. But one thing I noticed was that there weren't any good, easy to use, scientifically sound training methods out there made specifically for calisthenics. Now, you could, I guess, read the books and do the research like I did, but that took me dozens upon dozens of hours, as you can imagine. and it wasn't necessarily the most efficient way to get started with calisthenics. So I drew from everything I had learned to develop a fundamental knowledge base that I believe would have helped me tremendously in the beginning of my calisthenics journey. I fully believe that the pieces of knowledge that I've selected to show you here in this training are the key to making the fastest progress possible with calisthenics. And now that's without hiring a trainer or becoming an expert yourself. So, without further ado, let me present to you the powerful knowledge that you'll use to develop an incredible looking, highly functional, insanely strong physique. So here are the 5 parts of the knowledge base that I'm about to show you. Guys, all 5 parts of this knowledge base are critical to making progress. All 5 of these parts have material in them that you are going to have to learn no matter what. You might not learn them from this video, but if you get anywhere with calisthenics, these 5 parts and their material are going to make it into your knowledge base. It is inevitable. So learn them here and you'll save yourself a ton of time. So the first thing we'll cover are the 4 main areas of calisthenics. The second thing we'll go over are the goals you'll need to set for incredibly fast progress. And then we'll move on to the tried and true training principles. And these are the training principles that you'll use to actually achieve the goals that you set in part 2. After the training principles, we'll move on to the training schedule blueprint, which is the schedule you'll follow to make sure that you have enough recovery built into your routine so that you continue to make progress throughout your training. And the fifth thing we'll work on is workout structuring for maximum effectiveness. I'll also throw in 2 bonuses, which are the simple science-backed diet guidelines that you'll use to make sure that you're fueling your body well so that you can crush it in your workouts. And the second bonus is how to buy a home gym for less than $50. Guys, I want you to remember that I promise you, if you take notes, pay attention, and put this very simple information into practice, you can and will build a workout program that will make the process of getting the body you want 10 times easier. Or you can always choose to disregard this information and learn it the hard way anyways through personal experience. The choice is yours. And just one more thing before we start. This information is useful, and you can definitely use it to do incredible things all by yourself. Now, that said, mistakes are inevitable and you are going to have them. I'm sorry, but I simply can't give you enough information here to cover everything. But there is a way to make sure that you're doing everything right, and that's to talk with somebody who's done what you want to do before. So that's why I'm offering you something that I don't think you can find anywhere else on the internet. And that's a free consultation call, specifically about calisthenics with me personally. Now, if you want to take me up on my offer, either click the link below this video or stick around until the end of the training to learn more about the free consultation. So, without further ado, let's get into the information that I promised to show you. All right, so the very first thing I want you to understand is that for our purposes, there are 4 areas of calisthenics. And those 4 areas are strength, size, mobility, and skills. So let's get into what each of these things mean. Now, strength is pretty self-explanatory. I define it here as the capacity for your muscles to exert force. I won't go into too much detail about this topic because most people intuitively understand what strength is, but there's something you need to understand. Muscular endurance and strength are 2 very different things. So this is where I see a lot of people go wrong with calisthenics because they start repping out high reps of a movement and don't understand what they're training is not strength and rather endurance. So let me explain the difference between strength and endurance. So strength is the maximum amount of force your muscles can produce. So for most people, doing a one-arm pull-up requires maximal strength because you're putting the muscles of your back, bicep, and forearm under a very high load. Now compare that with muscular endurance. So muscular endurance is your ability to perform more repetitions of a movement that's not necessarily very hard for you. So for a lot of advanced trainees, things like doing 100 push-ups, for example, is not a feat of strength, but a feat of muscular endurance because they are just repeating a simple push-up over and over again for very high reps. So here's the thing that's critical to understand about this. Doing more reps of an exercise can be a good way to get you stronger. But once you start getting past about 16 reps of a movement, you are wasting your time as far as strength is concerned. So that means that going from 50 push-ups to 100 push-ups in a row does not mean you've gotten stronger. It just means that you're getting more efficient at doing push-ups and related movements. So for now, just keep that in mind and we'll talk more about it later. Now, the second area of calisthenics is size, which is also pretty self-explanatory. It's how big your muscles are. Now, the thing to understand here is that bigger muscles generally become stronger, but strengthening muscles does not always mean they become bigger. In other words, You can get really strong without having gigantic muscles. Again, I'll talk about why this in particular is useful to you later, but just keep it in mind for now. Now, the next area of calisthenics is mobility. And I'm going to have to oversimplify this for you because it would take me a long time to go over everything that there is to do with mobility. So for now, think of mobility as how freely you can move your body. So you might guess that flexibility, for example, is a part of mobility. But I'm also going to say that mobility is things like being able to move your shoulders or hips freely through their full range of motion. For now, just realize that the more mobility you have, the freer you'll be able to move and the better you'll feel. That's all you need to know about what mobility means. So the last thing we're going to talk about as far as areas of calisthenics go are skills. Now, skills are anything that take balance and coordination rather than strength to perform. So don't make the mistake of confusing feats of strength with skills. Handstands and backflips, for example, are skills because they don't require much strength at all. A planche, on the other hand, requires a lot of strength, which means it is a feat of strength, not a skill. That's a pretty simple distinction, but you'd be surprised about how many people mess that up. So if you just for now understand the difference between feats of strength and skills, you're good in this area. All right, so remember the four areas of calisthenics: strength, size, mobility, and skills. Make sure you understand what all of these things mean, and you'll already be ahead of the game. So let's move on. The second part of this training has to do with goals. Now, the truth is, guys, that if you don't know exactly what you want, you'll never get it. So, that said, one of the most important parts of calisthenics is defining your specific goals. So here are the two general goals that you definitely should have if you're just starting out with calisthenics or if you're lacking in either of the areas I'm about to outline for you. The first goal you should have is increasing your muscle mass, and the second goal you should have is increasing your mobility. I need you to keep these two things in mind because they are the most important goals you could have. Let me explain why. The first goal of increasing muscle mass is going to knock out two birds with one stone. It's going to make you look incredible, and it's also going to make you stronger. Now, remember how we talked about how bigger muscles are generally stronger, but not the other way around? That's why we're focusing on size rather than strength first. Eventually, you'll shift your focus more towards making your muscles incredibly strong, but for now, size is what you should be after. The second goal of increasing mobility is going to keep you from hurting yourself and will let you move more freely so that when you do decide to learn skills in calisthenics, you'll have a really healthy, supple body to work with rather than one that's stiff and hard to move. If you do just these two things as a beginner, you're going to be in really good shape to eventually learn really cool calisthenics skills and feats of strength. In the beginning, focus is absolutely key because most people who start out have a million goals and no conceivable way to actually achieve them. So the key here is to just focus on getting on the path to achieving these two things, and then you can worry about any other goals you have later. All right, so now that you have an understanding of the two most useful goals, let me explain exactly how you can achieve them with tried and true training principles. So the first goal I laid out for you was building muscle. Now, this is something that scientists have studied for decades, and it's still not completely understood. There's a lot I could say on this topic, so I'm going to simplify it for you so you get the most bang for your buck while you're training. Here are the 7 muscle building principles that are going to be the most useful for you as a beginner. So the first principle is going to be follow the right diet. Now, they say that athletes are made in the kitchen for a reason. I don't care how awesome your training is, without a proper diet, you're never going to build muscle. Now, if you don't know exactly what the right diet is, just stick around until bonus one and we'll cover exactly what you should be eating to gain maximal muscle mass. I just want you to understand that you cannot escape an unhealthy diet. It will catch up to you fast. So make sure that you don't skimp on this principle. Fix your diet, build muscle. The second training principle has to do with volume. Let me explain what this means. Volume for our purposes is the total amount of work your muscles do in one workout. So for building muscle, volume is going to be incredibly important. So like a lot of the things we've covered, this is also going to be an incredibly complex topic, but I'll make it simple for you. You need to do about 4 sets of 6 to 15 reps per body part per workout. Now that's assuming you're doing 3 full body workouts a week. This 6 to 15 rep range for 4 sets, done 3 times a week for each body part, for gaining muscle is highly supported from a scientific point of view. So I need you to remember that formula. 4 sets, 6 to 15 reps, done 3 times a week for each body part, equals muscle growth. The third training principle I'm going to outline for you is that you need to use progressive overload. Progressive overload might sound like a very sciencey term to a lot of you, but it's actually very, very simple. All it means is that when an exercise gets too easy for you, you need to make it harder. So say you were working out in a gym, progressive overload would look like adding more weight to whatever movement you're doing. But we're doing calisthenics, so this is going to take a little bit more strategy than you would normally need to use in a weight training program. But the protocol isn't too difficult. So what you're going to do is this. If you can do more than 15 reps of an exercise for all 4 sets, it's become too easy for you and you need to choose a harder one that uses the same muscles. For example, if you're doing regular push-ups and then they get too easy, switch to something harder like wide push-ups. Continue to do those until those get too easy, and then you switch to something like archer push-ups. Remember that you're not making progress if you're not slowly doing harder and harder exercises every time you work out. Our fourth principle is going to be always use proper form. And I really cannot stress enough how much this gets overlooked. The thing is, proper form is one of the most important things to pay attention to in your training. One of the most important things. If you don't have proper form, you won't make fast progress and you'll put yourself at risk for injury. So always use proper form, even if it means doing less reps. Remember, it's the quality of your reps that matter, not the quantity. So that said, here's how you develop proper form. Whenever you start doing a new exercise, look up on YouTube proper form for the exercise you want to do. So next time you work out, you try your best to do the exercise with proper form and keep trying your best to perfect your form from workout to workout. And that's it. That's all you need to do as a beginner to have perfect form. If you never stop trying to perfect your form and always pay attention to your form while you're doing your exercises, you'll eventually develop rock solid form on all your exercises. And one more thing, always do your reps slow and controlled. You should never let momentum or gravity do the work for you. That's cheating and will ruin your results. So move at a steady, controlled pace and you'll get more out of your exercises. Our fifth principle is staying consistent and working hard, which is pretty self-explanatory but critical for your progress. You need to consistently complete workouts and always put hard work into them. But when I say work hard, I don't mean that your workouts need to feel incredibly difficult. Actually, if you do them right, 90% of your workouts should not feel super intense. What I'm teaching you here is not a no pain, no gain kind of workout style. It's a way of working out that is training your body, not putting it through hell. So, when I say work hard, I mean that you need to do your absolute best to complete your workouts as you plan them. Unless you are afraid of getting injured, never make an excuse for skipping a workout. Follow your workout program and always be trying to improve. And as far as we're concerned, that is a definition of true hard work. The sixth principle is rest, which is incredibly important. So, contrary to what a lot of people think, your body does not get stronger when you work out. What happens is, right after your workout, your body is taxed and your muscles actually get weaker temporarily. The thing is, after you've rested enough, your body actually rebuilds itself up back stronger than it was before. But without enough rest, you'll keep getting more and more fatigued from workout to workout, and eventually your body will give up on you and you'll stop making progress altogether. All that to say, rest is just as important as the workout themselves. So I need you to get enough sleep, try to reduce stress as much as possible, and try to never work out 2 days in a row, especially if you're doing full body workouts. As a beginner or intermediate, following the plan I'm about to show you, you need about 48 hours of recovery between every workout to fully be ready to hit the next one. So do your workouts, rest up, and when you're recovered, hit another workout. It's really that simple. Finally, the last thing I'm going to say is keep it simple. You're a beginner, not an Olympic athlete. So if you try to make things more complicated than they need to be, you'll get overwhelmed and quit. In fact, that's a big reason why most people fail to get the body they want. They overcomplicate things, and as a result, they don't put enough time into the things that really matter and end up wasting their time on a bunch of little, tiny complexities that don't make a big difference in the long run. The 7 principles I just showed you are the things you need to focus on as a beginner. You can always add complexity later, but for now, keep it simple because the most effective workout program is going to be the one that you don't give up on and the one that focuses on the most important things. Let me repeat that. The most effective workout program is going to be the one that you don't give up on and that focuses on the most important things. All right, so here's one final recap of the 7 principles that are critical if you want to build mass as quickly as possible. I want you to remember these 7 things. Write them down, do whatever it takes, and don't get distracted from them. Like I said, the reason most people fail, especially in calisthenics, is because they overcomplicate things. In reality, complexity is the enemy of progress, especially when you're just starting out. Now, I know that was a lot of information we just covered on building mass, but there still is the second goal to cover, which, if you remember, is mobility. If you want to stay injury free and actually be able to use the strength you're building in real life situations, then you absolutely have to build your mobility. Think of the Olympic gymnasts we talked about earlier. They are incredibly strong but can do crazy feats of flexibility like the splits. You want to be as much like those guys as possible. So here's how you get really mobile. The first thing you need to do is do some light mobility work before every workout. There are literally hundreds of mobility exercises you could do. So just Google calisthenics mobility exercises to find literally all the mobility exercises you could ever need. Just try to find exercises that focus on the shoulders, hips, and back. And I want you to remember, keep it simple. Start off with just 1 or 2 mobility exercises, and then you can add more as time goes on and your needs change. The second thing you need to do to get really mobile is to stretch after every workout. If you don't do this, you'll find that your muscles will just keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter until you become stiff and inflexible. So you might have a lot of muscle, but if you can't move freely because you're inflexible, you cannot use it. Again, to find specific flexibility routines online, just Google for them. And you'll find plenty of resources. Just choose one. What I'm really concerned with here is that you build the habit of doing mobility exercises before and after your workouts. If you get into the habit of working on your mobility, it will be very easy to optimize the process in your routine later on. Just for now, focus on doing something before and after all your workouts without exception. Don't be like most people who don't do any mobility or stretching whatsoever, because those people almost always end up paying for that sooner or later, whether it be in injuries or lost potential. Don't make that same mistake. All right, so I just laid out for you the principles of gaining muscle mass and the best practices for getting mobile. The advice I gave might seem simple, but so many people ignore it and then they end up suffering for that in the long run. Don't be one of those people. Heed the advice I gave you and you'll be so happy you did later on. There's one more thing to be aware of. Everybody is different, so while I've done my best to give you general guidelines that all of you can follow and make serious progress with, it's almost guaranteed that every single one of you watching will benefit from tweaking the guidelines I gave you just a little bit. So if you'd like some help implementing effective training principles that will fit your body type and goals, you can always schedule a free consultation call with me. I'll personally help you on the phone to modify the goals, or sorry, modify the principles we just went over so that they will fit your body type. Again, I'll talk more about this later, but just keep a heads up on that for now. All right, so let's recap what you've learned so far. The first thing I taught you were the 4 main areas of calisthenics, and then you learned about goal setting and the 2 most important goals you could have as a beginner. Now, you know the training principles and practices that you can use to achieve those 2 goals as effectively as possible. So now, as you can see, we're on to training schedule, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's the week by week schedule you'll follow for your workouts. If you're a beginner or even intermediate calisthenics athlete, this is going to be extremely simple, but very important. So here's what your schedule should look like. As you can see, all you're going to do is 3 workouts a week, spaced at least 1 day apart. From my experience, most people like to do them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but you can do them on any days as long as there's always at least 1 day between each workout. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, you can either rest or do very light exercise, or you can decide to do some mobility or stretching work. You're also going to do something that most beginners never even think about. You're going to do one deload week for every 5 weeks of training. All that means is that you'll work out 3 days a week for 5 weeks in a row, and then you'll take 1 week where you do lighter workouts, about half the difficulty of the ones you normally do, on 2 days during that week. So, towards the end of the deload week, you'll also test your strength. All that means is that you'll pick a few arbitrary tests based on what you've been working on. So, for example, if you've been working on your pull ups, at the end of your deload week, you'll try your maximum number of pull ups. When you're done with that, You'll write down the numbers you got so that you can compare your progress the next time you do a deload. And that's all there is to training schedule. It really is quite simple. So some people ask me why they should even do deloads. And there's a good reason, so let me explain. So first, you need to understand exactly what happens after every workout. In this diagram, just take stress to mean workout. As you can see, after every workout, you experience a temporary breakdown. What your body then does is it recovers. But it doesn't just recover, it super compensates, which means that after you recover, you come back stronger than before. But I want to point out that your overall strength isn't the only thing that builds, because as you continue to work out without extended breaks, you end up also building fatigue. So here's the thing. If you keep building fatigue without relieving it, eventually you'll crash. But if every once in a while you take a week off to let yourself recover, you'll bring your fatigue back down to normal and come back that week stronger than before. That week is what we call a deload week. Something to remember here is that you get stronger during rest and not during your workouts. Your workouts are just a stimulus, your rest is where you actually make the gains. That said, the key with deloads is to continue doing very easy workouts so that you get the blood pumping and tell your body that even though you're taking a breather, you're still using the muscle you've just built. Studies show that doing light exercise is actually better for recovery than just sitting around. So make sure that when you deload, continue your 3-day-a-week workout schedule, but make your workouts very easy versions of the ones you normally do. All that to say, follow this training schedule and I guarantee you that you'll make progress. For the first several months of training especially, don't be tempted to do more workouts than this. At the beginning and intermediate stages of training especially, less is often more. So, before we jump into the fifth part of this training, let's do one more recap. Now you have a solid understanding of the 4 areas of calisthenics, you know the goals you should have as a beginner, you know the 7 most effective training principles for making fast progress towards these goals, and you know exactly what your training schedule should look like. So now that you've got all of that down, you can finally move on to building the actual workouts. By this point, you've got all of the information you need to construct a proper routine. Sadly, most people skip past all the information we just covered and go straight to building their workouts. Trust me, that's the wrong way to go about it. Because you understand what I just taught you, you are way ahead of 95% of other beginners and even intermediate athletes out there. So here's how you should construct a calisthenics workout. A proper workout should be broken up into 4 stages. So the first stage is warm up, which should take about 5 minutes. The second stage is mobility and optional skill work, which is 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how you structure it. The third stage is strength and hypertrophy training, which should take 30 minutes to an hour. And note that hypertrophy training is just the technically correct way of saying training for muscle mass. And the fourth stage is flexibility work, which should take 10 to 30 minutes at the most. Realistically, your entire workout should take only about an hour and a half, which includes all of the 4 stages we just mentioned. Let's run through each of these 4 stages and exactly how to complete them. So warm up just means that you're going to find a way to increase your body temperature and heart rate. In practice, you're just going to do something like go for an easy 5-minute run, jump rope, or do some burpees, jumping jacks, mountain climbers, or high knees, or something like that. Anything that gets your body warm and your heart rate moderately elevated is good enough. Next, you're going to move on to mobility and, if you choose, skill work. Use the mobility exercises that you found on Google in this stage. Now, your mobility exercises should be movements that take your joints through their full range of motion and not static exercises where you hold a position that stretches a muscle for a length of time. I highly recommend things like arm and leg swings, shoulder dislocations, scapula raises, wrist circles, knee circles, and hip rotations. Choose whatever mobility exercises suit you best, but make sure that they warm up your shoulders, hips, back, and wrists. If you choose, you can practice skills right after your mobility work for 5 to 10 minutes. For most people, the skill that they should learn first is going to be the handstand. Now, I highly recommend learning the handstand because you're going to need it for advanced strength training once you've been training for a few years. But if all you care about is building a muscular, athletic body, it's not 100% necessary to work on any skills, but still make sure that you do mobility work. Only after you have done your warm-up and mobility, you can move on to your strength and hypertrophy training. This is the main part of your workout, and it's going to take the longest. But that said, what you're going to do here is still simple. So I'm actually going to give you this workout template. This is exactly what a beginner workout should look like. Pause the video and take a minute to look over it. Finished? Awesome. So notice that for each exercise, there's another exercise paired with it with no rest in between. This is going to save you a lot of time because you'll be resting and working out at the same time. Let me explain. Take the dips and pull-ups, for example. If you look at these two movements, you'll notice that they both use very different muscles. The dips use your chest and triceps, while the pull-ups use your back and biceps. Now, if you look at the program template, you'll see that the dips and pull-ups are placed right next to each other with no rest in between them. And because they use very different muscles, it won't matter that when you do your pull-ups, you'll have just done dips, because the two exercises use entirely different muscles. Without this method, called paired sets, your workout would probably take about 1.5 to 2 times as long. Here's another thing that's cool about this workout. You can use this exact template even if it's too hard or too easy for you. If it's too hard for you, just continue to do your best to complete it, and inevitably you're going to master it. But as you continue to do this workout week after week, it's going to get easy for you so that you can complete all 15 reps for all sets on all exercises with no problem. At that point, you'll need to make the exercises harder. Now, this is very easy because there are several ways you can make calisthenics exercises harder. For example, you could put books in a backpack and wear it as extra weight for the dips and pull-ups. Another way is to start working towards harder things like one-arm pull-ups, pistol squats, and one-arm push-ups. For the other exercises, you can start doing things like hanging leg raises instead of laying ones. You could do windshield wipers instead of side crunches. Or you could do things like put weights in your hands and on your legs for the Supermans. As long as you're making your exercises harder, the possibilities are really endless. And in fact, I actually use a very similar program in my own training to what you're looking at right now. I made a few modifications myself, but generally this is how my own program looks, and it served me very well. Now, I will admit that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all program, which is why we have people like personal trainers or certain athletes that create their own workouts. But if you're looking for a one-size-fits-all program, this is about as close as it's going to get. But if you want to take your training to the next level, I highly recommend that you find somebody who knows about training, preferably calisthenics training, and help them or ask them to help you create a program that will suit your specific needs much better. And that's about everything that I have to tell you about the strength and hypertrophy part of your workout. So if you need to, pause the video, take note, or take a screenshot of this workout program so that you can save it for later. With that, we're on to the final part of our training, which is flexibility. Like everybody else, you might be tempted to skip this stage, but trust me, that's not a good idea. If you decide to skip flexibility, not only will you be stopping your body from moving properly, you'll also be making yourself weaker and more injury prone than you really should be. I say that because we know that being moderately flexible prevents injuries, and there's even evidence that stretching helps your muscles actually grow and exert maximal strength. Basically, if you don't stretch, you're shooting yourself in the foot and you're liable to end up with mediocre results. But I want you to understand that flexibility training does not have to be a long and difficult thing. It can take only 10 minutes if you just want basic flexibility, or it can take up to an hour if you're looking to do things like splits. So if you want to just stay injury free and optimize your strength, 10 to 20 minutes of stretching after every workout is more than enough. And that's really all I have to say about this stage of your workouts. So that's how you're going to structure every single one of your workouts. Warm up first, then do some mobility, then train your muscles, and finish off by stretching. That may sound very simple, but believe me, this kind of workout is going to turn you into a supple beast. And that's it for how to structure your workouts, and coincidentally, it's also it for the main part of this video. I'll get to the bonuses in a minute, but you now know more than 95% of all beginners about how to start calisthenics. The information I've given you is the most bang for your buck information that I know of. It came from dozens upon dozens of hours of my own studying, testing, and experience. I swear by its effectiveness, and I tried to make all the information I presented as simple to understand as possible. That said, if you're confused or simply want to take your training up a notch from great to incredible, don't hesitate to schedule a consultation call with me. You can just click the button below this video if you'd like to do so. Otherwise, let's finish off with the two bonuses I have for you. All right, if you're still watching, it means you want to know the bonus information that I've included. I congratulate you for really trying to get the most out of this training. So let's just jump right into bonus one. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is diet. Now, I didn't include this in the main part of the training because it has less to do with calisthenics and more to do with general fitness. But this I cannot stress enough, even though it is not part of the main training, it is just as important as everything we've talked about. So I don't care what your workout program looks like, you won't build muscle without following a proper diet. So here's how you eat if you want to make incredible gains. So first off, you need to eat plenty of protein. This means that each day you should eat ideally at least 0.7 grams of protein or more per pound of body weight. Now to gain muscle, you should also eat ideally about 400 more calories than you burn each day. But be careful not to eat too many more calories than that, because if you do, you're probably going to start gaining fat rather than muscle. Now, you may be wondering, if you're getting your protein, where should you get the rest of your calories from? Because 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight is not going to make up enough calories for your entire body. So I usually recommend that you just try to get the rest of the calories you need from healthy fats and healthy carbs. Also, don't listen to the lie that fat is bad for you. It's actually very good for you. Just research a little bit about the topic and you'll find that the fat is bad for you idea is a complete lie. That's why I tend to lean more towards a higher fat diet rather than a high carb diet, but you'll build muscle on both high fat and high carb. So if you have enough protein in your diet and you're getting a good mix of healthy fats and healthy carbs, there's one more thing you need to make sure that you're incorporating into your diet, and that's vegetables. Love them or hate them, you need vegetables in your diet. And even though they're not a macronutrient like protein, carbs, or fat, they are necessary for making sure that you have optimal health and that you can perform your best in the gym. So make sure that you get enough vegetables in your diet. So here's something a lot of you will find helpful. These are my personal favorite foods that you can eat to have maximal health and hormone support, plus the macros you need. So pause the video and take note of these foods because these and other healthy foods are going to be the foods that should make up about 90% of your diet. But if I'm saying 90%, what is the other 10%? Well, that extra 10% is up to you. Ideally, you would be eating 100% healthy food, but I realize that nobody is perfect, and in the end, the diet that you stick to is going to be the diet that's going to work the best. So if you want to use that extra 10% of calories each day on junk food, just keep in mind that while it's not going to kill you, it will slow you down a little bit. All right, so two more things about diet. First, I want to warn you that since I told you in guideline 2 to eat 400 more calories than you burn each day, you're also going to start gaining a little bit of fat as well. Now, I don't want you to panic when this happens because it really isn't a big deal. And actually, it's normal for most people to go up in body fat percentage in the process of gaining muscle. So, what you're going to do to negate this is once you start to put on enough weight in muscle mass and fat, you're going to go on a cut where you keep your protein consumption the same, but cut down on the calories from fat and carbs. So, what this will do is lose the fat, but hopefully preserve as much muscle as possible. Like I said, when you're cutting weight, the goal is to keep as much muscle as possible, but lose as much fat as possible. So, continue working out, eat a lot of protein, and eat about 400 calories less than what you normally burn in a day. Now, I have one more piece of advice for those of you who are naturally very skinny and are so-called hard gainers. These are people who tend to have trouble gaining any weight, whether it be in fat or muscle. They just cannot seem to pack on pounds in any capacity. If you're one of those people, I have one recommendation for you. Eat as much food as you possibly can. You most likely have a fast metabolism, so you're going to need as many calories as you can possibly consume in order to gain weight in muscle mass. Now remember, this is only for people who have trouble gaining weight in muscle mass or fat. So if you've ever had problems with weight before, as in you were too heavy, then you're almost definitely not one of those people. If, on the other hand, you have always been told you look skinny, you've always been told you undereat, you've always been told that you weigh less than you should, then you are one of these people and you need to eat as much as you possibly can. And that is literally the only prescription that I know of that can fix your problem of being a so-called hard gainer. All right, so that concludes the section on diet. So let's move on to bonus two, which is coincidentally the final part of this training. So if you remember, bonus two has to do with how you can build a calisthenics home gym for less than $50. And that's not an exaggeration. All you need as far as equipment goes for calisthenics is just $50, and you'll have everything you need to start and even get close to mastering calisthenics. All you're going to need are two things. One, a doorway pull-up bar, and two, gymnastics rings. Guys, that's it. That is all you need to build the physique you've always wanted with calisthenics. Those are the only tools you will possibly ever need. Now, some of you might want to start doing weighted calisthenics, which is a viable option. And for this, There's no need to go out and spend another $50+ on weights. You can simply just throw books in a backpack or fill up gallon water jugs or whatever water jugs you have available to you and use them as extra weights. And in fact, that is actually what I did. And as you can see here, this is the genuine real pull-up bar and rings that I used when I was just starting out. And I often actually still work out on rigs like this all the time when I need to get in a quick workout at home. And it only costed me about $35, and it is still incredible to me how far I got using pretty much only this and a few items as extra weight. I bet it will take you about a year or more before you even need to think about getting more equipment than this. And in fact, you might never need to get more equipment than this. So that's it for bonus two, which means that it's also it for this training. Now, I don't want you to be one of those people who sat through this hour-long video and then did nothing with the information you just learned. If you don't use the information I just gave you, you will stay the same as you are right now. Even if you've taken notes, if you've learned everything that I have just imparted to you, if you don't use the information, if you don't take action, nothing is going to happen. So whatever you do, take action. If you do one thing because of this video, it would be that. Take action. If you don't do anything, you'll be like the 99% of other people who watch this video and do nothing with it. So before I finish off this training, before I close this video, let me give you a perfect opportunity to take action. If you're serious about starting calisthenics and really want to build a perfect program for yourself, you should absolutely schedule a free consultation call with me. In this call, we'll go over where you are, what your goals are, and what you can do to achieve those goals. This call is a perfect way to make sure that you don't make any mistakes because I've been where you're at right now, and I can tell you exactly how to get to where I am today. And I want you to understand that the call is totally free with no strings attached. You just need to schedule it by clicking the big red button that says free consultation call down below. It will take you to a schedule page where you can select the time and date that you want me to call you. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for the call, I'll send you a 5-minute questionnaire that you will be able to fill out so that before we actually get to the call, I'll be able to look over your answers to my questions and get a head start on helping you. Now, most of you watching will probably not take advantage of this opportunity, and that's fine. But for those of you that actually do schedule a call with me, you're the ones that are going to be most likely to succeed because you're taking action right now and you're doing something to move you closer towards your goals. All I can say is don't pass up on this opportunity. All right, guys, that's it from me. So get started, use the information I just gave you, and watch yourself achieve extraordinary things. Success is at your fingertips. So until we speak again, have a good one.